Hey everybody. I sorry for the delay. There was a little technical problem, but it looks like we've figured that out. So I'm really happy that you're here to join me on the live stream. We are going to take just 1 minute and share out the link, let everyone know it started, and then we are a go. So bear with me just a minute. Okay, thanks very much for waiting. Let me show you my lovely face. I'm Douglas Horn. I'm excited to be sharing this. I apologize for once again having a little technical snafu. It seems like every single time we do, uh, no matter what we try. I guess that's the what happens if you have a Gen X or try to live stream stuff. Let me share what I came here to talk about. So this is the Q3 quarterly progress report for Telos. I am Douglas Horn. I am doing this not as an official Telos thing, but really just sort of for myself and GoodBlock and the Telos core developers. So I'm a blog producer. I'm a developer of dApps. I'm a Telos core dev, and I love Telos, but I'm not any kind of official representative of the chain. I'm not a Telos Foundation member, board member, and anything I say here is really just my opinion. I don't see into the future either through being psychic or having been a time traveler. I just try and tell you what I think is going to happen. So everything should be considered sort of a forward-looking opinion, and don't go out and just buy stuff like crazy for anything I happen to say. Do your own research. Standard disclaimers apply. All right, this is not financial advice. With that said, at the beginning of the year, we brought out our 2021 tech roadmap, and we talked about projects that we were going to build. We've built a lot of them already. Here we are at the beginning of Q4, and I want to talk about really what we did in Q2 Q3, and then what we're going to do in Q4. So let's just sort of dive right in. Even though we launched dStor in July of 2021. A lot of people aren't as aware of it as I would hope they would be because we are being very cautious about how we're rolling it out. We want everyone long term to have an awesome experience with dStor, both customers and storage nodes. So we are working very carefully with a few small close partners to make sure that we are creating a really great experience for everyone. That's what we're focusing on right now. But by the end of this quarter, that will be all out and ready to go, and so that everyone can use it. So we're focusing on making a great onboarding experience for everyone. We have integrated Stripe and Telos payments. We thought, if you were following closely, we thought we were going to be starting invoicing in September. We're actually going to start in October. That's all done now. We wanted to make that a little bit more comprehensive. One of the things we're working on that's really exciting right now is a wizard to make it really easy to onboard NFT sets. NFTs is a major use case for Telos, especially early on. ERC 721 is the Ethereum standard that most main NFTs use, those like that you would see on OpenSea or something like that. And so it has a specific format that we are the way that developers have to store their resources. We're building like a really cool tool right now to make that really easy for them. By the way, you might have noticed Doug's Donuts out there kicking butt on Area X NFTs. Those are now on store. All the new batches are stored on dStor, and we also have them using the secure on dStor community and consumer awareness program. That's sort of like our Intel Inside, where we're planning to make dStor a preferred location for NFT and other types of assets. So keep a lookout for that. Very exciting for us. Decide Voter. So like dStor, dStor is a GoodBlock product, but it's built on Telos, and a lot of Telos projects will be using it. That's why it's on our roadmap. Decide Voter uses the Telos Decide open source Telos governance engine, but Decide Voter is the first mobile app interface for it. We brought this out this quarter. It's amazing. I love it. I use it every single day. It's a free app on Google and Apple stores. It doesn't track you. There's no ads. There's nothing. Just use it and enjoy. It now, thanks to the community, has over 20 languages built in and more coming. Super excited that we could, have the help of the community in that way. And it's powering Telos Works. There's already things you're voting on with that. Telos Amend, the upcoming election, the very soon upcoming election, and all kinds of other things. And of course it uses dStor. It uses dStor for its decentralized storage. We're really excited about Decide Voter. A lot of people are talking to us about this now, and I think that it's going to be form the basis of a lot of new dApps coming onto Telos. This quarter, we also, in mid-July, were able to launch the new Telos website. It's awesome. I love the look and feel. We're hearing great things from everybody. I hope you love it too. We've also, in addition to just the cosmetic update, we've vastly expanded how many subjects are being covered. And then we also go through and are regularly updating things. Like, for example, something that just happened over the last couple weeks has been that we've gone through and looked at our dApps page and said, oh, this needs a little bit of a refresher because we've got some dApps that haven't deployed yet, and some things that are still on there, and some things that are coming out now that aren't on there yet. So the team there is constantly going through and updating those things. We've added a great customer support knowledge base system. We're expanding our documentation. So it's not, may not notice it, day by day, but there's a lot of new things being added here to the Telos website, and a great job to the team there. Another thing that launched this quarter was the T-Starter Launchpad. This is from EOS South Africa, or Telos South Africa, Rory Mapstone's team. It's fantastic. It's a new way to basically kickstart new projects on Telos, and it's already, while it started on Telos, it's already expanded to Wax and EOS, and there may be other areas it expands to already. There's a lot of additional fixes that are going in. It's constantly being updated. Now you can use multiple currencies on it. Multiple projects have already gone through, like Zeptogram, which is exciting, Destiny World, and I know there's more coming. If you haven't checked that out yet, highly recommend it. But that's something that's something that was on the roadmap and just really taken off. There's a lot to fix. There's some tokenomics things that team is still working out, but I have every confidence they'll do a great job in this quarter. Of course, the reason everyone is here is to find out about Telos EVM and what the progress is. We've been doing regular progress reports on it. To catch you up, this is something we've been working on for about a year. We had a checklist of all the things we needed to work out that ended up with mainnet launch as the last item. We then recently broke down the mainnet launch into something that had 5 milestones because the launch is a process. We talked about that on another call. And so we've already fully delivered milestones 1 and 2, and milestones 3 and 4 are in progress right now, being worked on in parallel. We don't have to finish milestone 3 to do milestone 4. A lot of those things are being done at the same time. If you've been paying attention to Telos, you've noticed that our work with Sentinel allowed us allowed them to find a really important bug in Ethereum. This quarter got a lot of attention to Telos and Telos EVM, and very positively. It really proved that we are trying to do best in class testing, and I think that will only help us. We put up a demo site, which is demo.telos.finance, and it just shows the amazing speed and low cost of Telos EVM, and we're getting a lot of organic videos and tweets and all kinds of things. People who are looking at it, really see that this is actually redefining DeFi. Let's just remember, Telos EVM is more than just DeFi. DeFi is very exciting, but there's other things that happen on Ethereum and other EVMs that are equally exciting. And I'm hoping that, as we move towards launch, we'll have some exciting things to mention about our partnerships, and some things that might not even be expected. So I'm excited to be able to share that. I did just before going on this, just starting this stream, I did double check to see if we could announce whether or not the audit is fully complete. We cannot announce that yet, but read into that. That I would have to have that question. You can read into that what you will, interpret what you will from that. I'll say no more. Moving on to TSwaps. So TSwaps.com is also from EOS, from Telos South Africa. The same team that built T-Starter. It's going to be tightly integrated. But the chain in order to get that really up to where it needs to be, the Telos core developers have put together funding and a proposal to bring in more developers to work specifically on that. By the way, I'll talk about the structure of the TCD towards the end of this presentation. There's some changes there. So we've funded a 12 to 16-week project. It's already underway. We'd love to have it done by the end of, by Christmas, but it might be January 2022 if it leans more towards that 16 weeks. We'll announce more about this. In fact, one of the first things we're going to come out with is a project roadmap so we can share that. Basically, there's going to be 3 main milestones, and that's going to include not only technical things, but also marketing and community things, and then also added liquidity to really make this a useful on-chain DeFi hub for Telos native. So since we're upgrading the smart contracts, we're not just trying to make them work. We're going to update them to the state of the art, which is for people who use things like Uniswap v3, where there are much more advanced ways to use liquidity. You can set ranges. We're going to be bringing those functions in. We'll be I believe we'll be the first EOSIO AMM to have that. I could be wrong, but that's my understanding. Very excited about that. We're going to create incentives to bring in more community liquidity, and as I said, we're also already working with the Telos core devs and BPs and stuff like that to be able to bring in more chain-based liquidity to make it just much more useful. It's had TSwaps has had a problem. The interface hasn't been great. The smart contracts haven't been up to where other things are moving towards, and there's been very low liquidity compared to what we needed. And we're going to solve all those problems on TSwaps. We're going to make a very useful, attractive DeFi hub for the native Telos. And we need that. There's going to be all kinds of dStor storage node operators who are going to be getting paid in Telos and want to turn that into other things as well. So this is necessary. We're going to have graphs added for, you're going to be able to see what your historical pool data was as a provider. It's going to go right, the wallet optimization is going to be really, really integrated there. You're going to be able to see how much stuff you have on Rex and pull things out of Rex to trade and put them back into Rex right afterwards, all from one interface. The swap token part of TSwaps has really not been, we really hadn't made the use case clear to people, and now our intention is to improve that use case. And also, since the chain is now kind of taking over the cost of development, there's going to be an airdrop to people of swap once it's done. And of course, complete user documentation, infographics, everything like that. I'm excited about that. It's going to be important. Moving on to Telos Identity. This has been something we've had on our plan for some time. We've moved in the last few weeks. We've created some really exciting progress, and that will really ramp this forward in this quarter. So first, Edward Ecker, who a lot of people know from the Telos community, has come in and helped introduce us to a team, highly qualified team, global experts in the area of identity. This is not just Telos Identity. One of the reasons it was delayed is that it's not just a little Telos thing anymore. We think that in conjunction with our world-class governance tools, a world-class identity tool that's based on the world's best-in-class national government tool, the identity system, the Estonian system, but can be used across different nations, different corporations, different DAOs, different communities. That's going to be really advantageous. So we are working with the leader, like a fantastic team. When we announce this, people are going to be really have to pay attention to what Telos is doing, because we're really working with the top people. And Edward is going to be the project manager for that. I'm very excited about that. That's coming initially in 2 phases. The first phase is that we're working on, we just started, is to work on a very clear MVP blueprint for what we're going to build, making sure we're trying to think more about business use cases instead of just building technology. Telos has a sort of a history of building great technologies, but not necessarily building, going the full way and building user available products. And we're going to fix that. We're going to make sure we're developing user technologies and user products at the same time. And so this will be one of the first ones to go through that process. And then the phase 2 is to implement that. And there will be multiple use cases for this technology. But what we want to do is start off with a really strong one that everyone can use, and then leave ourselves open to additional ones as we expand this. So happy about that. Now here's some things that we're sort of we've not had the same progress as other projects, because we just ultimately we have to prioritize things. Satoshi tokens is still happening, but we have had to delay some of the progress, and we're looking now to begin that in Q4. Happy to talk about that more soon. Telos Private is really exciting. It's a side chain we're going to be building. We have to work on some what's called intrinsic parts, which are new features in EOSIO itself. And so that has been delayed because we have to build those functions. Mainly, all of the delays we have are because we just have to focus on getting EVM and some of these other core things out there, and put all our resources into that. until lately, there really hasn't been the same, the idea of consistent funding. So now that we have that beginning, we're working to professionalize the Telos core developers and how we're doing everything. And I'm going to be sharing that in just a second. Proof of location, it also delayed. We will get that out in 2022, but that's a long project. That's not only is that a project that that we deemed a slightly lower priority than some of these other things like EVM and stuff, and we hope we guessed right, but based on our technical knowledge, but also it's a longer process. You have to get, you can't just have a single MVP. We have to, it's more development to get to that first usable implementation. And while people are very excited about it, and we're excited about it, and a lot of people have told us they want to use it, we are deprioritizing that a little bit, and it's still going to happen. It's just we're not confident about when the dates are, so we're just going to call that 2022 for now, and hope you guys can bear with us and understand why we're really focusing on what we have to get out for the chain. Instead of doing a little more scattershot approach that we have been doing. That's probably my fault, to be honest. I get excited about these technologies. In our effort to improve how the Telos core developers operates, we've been looking at ways to expand both the professionalism, the permanence, and the transparency. We've been working on that throughout 2021 as our token price has recently appreciated and stabilized. Now we can actually bring in, we can start talking to developers about having like real live, we are your employer, full-time employer of record, and you just at work for Telos from now on, and let's see what we can do. That is something very new. That's very new for us to be able to do, and very exciting. But it's taken a while to get there, and I'm super excited to be able to be there. Big picture, in this new proposed org structure, which is not fully adopted yet. I'm just trying to share what we're trying to do. There's a technical team leading the TCD. That's basically me and Jesse, working on vision and implementation and all that stuff, and looking at what can we do, what ideas should we be bringing, what technologies help build Telos. And then there's a product side, and we're trying to make those, sort of co-equal, or at the very least, as we discuss technologies, we want to make sure that we're at the same time discussing products. And again, Decide is a great example. Amazing technology that we brought out, so cool. A few people have been able to use it, but we hadn't really turned it into a usable product for end users to engage with. Now that's happening with Decide Voter, and that'll happen with more things as well. But that is how we want to approach a lot of things from now on. So yeah, we're recruiting several permanent roles. We are there's some things that I've been doing, or Jesse's been doing, or other people have been doing, and doubling up our roles, and we're looking to eliminate that doubling up to free us to work more on what we're really best at. We brought in Kirsten Worth, who a lot of people know from the Telos community. He is a professional program manager, and he's going to be working to improve how we work with all our individual project managers across the system. We also brought in, I mentioned recently, we brought in Rami James, who is going to spend about half his time. He's also still working on Ultra, and that's actually really exciting because he gives us a bridge to that community. And Rami and Erica and I were just on an hour-long phone call with Zoom call with one of the co-CEOs of Ultra, David Hansen, and we are talking about ways that we could benefit our communities by working together on certain things. Nothing to announce, but I did clear with him this time that it was okay to mention that. I think that, again, you need to read into these things what you will, but but I personally am very excited about it because I think Ultra is a great community. We already announced our partnership with Hive, and we'll be announcing soon more things that actually means. I would love to be able to, mention things like that around Ultra in the future. Can't say any more about that, but the fact that I can share that we were having that level of conversation, I think should be encouraging to anyone who likes both ecosystems, as I do. By the way, I heard some of the other stuff that they're working on, and I can't share that either. But wow, I'm impressed. I went in thinking highly of their community, and I came out of that meeting thinking far more highly of that community and their technology. And my sense is that David Hansen had the same experience in how he thought about Telos. And I hope that's true. Can't speak for anyone else, but very exciting. So back to what's happening with Telos core developers. So Rami James, everybody knows from Scatter, is going to be working to give us sort of a common look and feel around all Telos things. Telos things have a lot of different interfaces, and I think that for the community and users, especially as we bring in more non-blockchain people, that it is important to have a much more unified experience. That's I use the example of Apple, and everyone goes, "Oh, Apple products are just so intuitive." And if you've ever just handed somebody an Apple product for the first time ever, you'll discover it's not intuitive at all. Intuitive in that case means that they spent years and years training us how to use their products, and then being consistent so that when we get a new Apple product, we have a pretty good idea of how to use it. And that's the experience that I would like Telos users to have for Telos products. And that's just going to make it so much easier for everyone. So Rami's going to help us with that user experience, user interface goal by working across all kinds of different products. Then you see underneath those guys, there's going to be individual project teams that will keep expanding, and there are some roles that we are looking, that are empty or that are filled by somebody like me or Jesse or something like that. And we are actively looking at hiring really high-end developers all around the world to fill out those roles as PMs and lead developers and development teams. Now that we have the money to really pursue that. So I was talking since the beginning, since the very first one of these things. This is our third quarterly report. I'm excited to be sharing this with you guys. And from the very start, I said we wanted to do this, and I look at this as proof of our progress there, and I'm excited. It's a better process, and it will only improve how the Telos core devs work from now on. So excited to share that. And we had some community questions. We picked 4 questions. There's a 200 Telos prize. Boy, when Telos price changes, it really changes everything, because it used, 200 Telos didn't seem that much. Now we're sharing 200 Telos. Now you get $50 if you're 50 Telos, which is $50 essentially if your question gets picked. That's pretty good. So fortunately, these were really good questions. So our community member Jash asks, are you planning to extend Telos private beyond simple transactions? I.e., can you privately interact with an AMM or have anonymous voting on Decide? And the answer is that yes. Once we build these zero knowledge proof intrinsics and put them out on a chain, it will be very much like the way Telos is, where it's a set of tools, it's maintained, but we don't tell people how they can or cannot use those tools. So that is, it's going to be to anyone to use how they want. So yeah, anything that you might want to use private but proven transactions, including DeFi, including all kinds of things. Any of those uses would be essentially available to do on Telos Private. As for anonymous voting on Decide, a similar technology, I don't know if we'll bring Decide to Telos Private, but as we use that technology, that once we bring in the ZK proofs, it does open up the opportunity for secret ballot elections and things like, and those types of anonymous but proven voting on Telos Decide. That has been something I worked on a while ago. A lot of the Decide stuff is stuff that I at one time planned to patent, and now we're just making open source because the world needs it. So yeah, it's gonna bring a lot of excellent opportunities. And that is a great question, Josh. Thank you. I hope I answered it well for you. Next question. This account starts with an H. It's a Genesis account, I see. I'm not going to try and say it. Says, is setting fixed transaction fees enough to totally get rid of front running, or does it have to be coupled with super fast block production to have that effect, and the Telos EVM is planning on achieving? And this is a great question. I don't talk about everything that is part of this, just because it's very geeky and most people just want the there's no front running message. There's a number of pieces that make front running so difficult that so as to be considered not feasibly possible on Telos. Of course, they're computers, so they're, I'm sure anyone can figure out a way to do almost anything. But let me tell you the pieces that all, since you have this great question. So the first then is just the speed, right? First thing is the speed. It happens really fast, so you don't have a public mempool. The next thing is the way that, and I don't talk about this much, the way that the EOSIO code is created so that they're first in, first out ordering on transactions. Now, because of world latency, every BP may get a slightly different version of what's coming to them first, right? Because something that's closer to me might get to me ahead of some other transaction that's closer to somebody else. But once it gets into the software, it is handled in a first in, first out basis. That's the biggest thing. Now, you have to understand how, this is a technical question, I'll dive a little deeper. You have to understand how front running actually happens on other chains. So the node itself is the nodes that run the consensus do not have anything to do with the front running. It's what's happening is bots run. Now bots run and they look at the publicly available transactions, and what they do is they just propose additional transactions. Now, in the newest version of that, MEV, maximum extracted value, minor extractable value, whatever you want to call it, what happens is the mining pools themselves run these bots, but they're still running separate bots. The bots are not their nodes, right? Because they're reading everything, and they may bring in transactions that don't even exist in the general mempool. They're not just reordering those; they're putting in their own transactions. But what they're doing is they're doing it in a way that still uses basically a bot technology to look at what's there, assess what kind of logic it needs to apply to how it could make money for it, and then proposes a transaction, whether that be a public transaction or its own little transaction that it just stuffs in. It's what it's not doing is changing the node software. Now, if you wanted to do that on Telos, you couldn't do it just with an external bot because the first in, first out no mempool structure. You would have to actually build that functionality into the Telos EOSIO Node-EOS program that actually runs the nodes. Doing that would be expensive. There would be it would have telltale signs that would be not hard to find, and time consuming. And the outcome would be that the other BPs would find it, be able to prove it, and boot the BP that tried it. and they would not only be prohibited from absolutely prohibited from being block producers for extended period of time, but they would also lose their reputation and community support. And so so that'd be an incredible amount of development to build something that does that under the scene, behind the scenes, under the hood, where no one can see it. But because it's so much more, you'd still see things like that their nodes run slower, right, appreciably slower, and so we'd see it, and we'd see the transactions, and they would get punished just as other Telos block producers who have violated the governance rules for block producers that all block producers agree to, just as they have also been published and punished, and been kicked off the network. And the takeaway is, for most of them, even when they come back, there's a long period of trying to rebuild trust and get back into any kind of paid position. So while there are always workarounds that clever people can try to think of, the technical lift is incredibly high, and the cost on the other side is incredibly big. And so these things all work together, both the technical and the governance and then the practical all work together to make it so that front running just is not going to happen on Telos. Even if you could somehow think of some kind of sci-fi way that they could work around it, it just would not be worth it. So that's it's probably a longer answer than you wanted, but it's pretty, but it covers everything. All right, question 3 from Telos Bull Run: is there one area of technology that is more challenging to implement than the others in this Q3 roadmap? Yeah. I mean, they're all pretty. There's a lot of challenging stuff here. And some of those things that we have pushed back, we push back in the schedule because they're challenging. Things like location. We actually have all the pieces for a location, but even with them, it's going to take a long time to build that out. And so that we decided, like, we make decisions about what we're going to do based on that. And so that sometimes those things get pushed back. By the way, it's the Q4. I keep doing that too. I keep thinking, we're talking about what we have accomplished in Q3, but now we're in Q4. So yeah, the Q4 roadmap. Interestingly, something like the Satoshi token, SAT, is actually quite easy. I put all that down on basically a back of a napkin, and so that's more about partnership and making sure that we're doing that with the right people. That has to do with how we're bringing out bridges for EVM and Telos native, and so that's more something that since we're bringing on a lot of new partners there, we want to make sure that goes in the smartest way. So even though that's not technically challenging really kind of at all, like all those things in my mind are solved, we're pushing it back. And once we get that right partnership, it can actually happen pretty quick. Things like Telos identity is quite complex, but we have a great team working on it, so I'm not worried about it. EVM has been, world-class complex, but thankfully we've got, Jesse Schulman's done an amazing job of getting that together, and I feel like we're at the, the final stages there. None of these, each of these has its own strengths and weaknesses and challenges. The Telos private, I think we have a very good idea of what all those challenges are. I don't think it's going to be as big a project as Telos EVM was, but we still have to do it, and in doing it, we still have to write some new intrinsic parts to the EOSIO code, and that triggers some really interesting questions about whether we can work with Block 1 to bring those to contribute those changes we make into the standard EOSIO software, which we'd actually like to do. Whether they're going to support us in that way or not. So that's like a reputational thing, and the reputational thing may be more challenging than the technical piece. It's really kind of hard to know for sure how these things are going to happen. That relationship thing could go very fast though too, and I hope it does. It's always the unknowns that get you. So the challenges to implement these things are not always just technical challenges. Sometimes they're partnerships. Sometimes they're timing. Sometimes it's easy to pull out the tech, easier to pull out the tech, but harder to create it into a workable project, product for end users to use. So we're trying to really think about all those things, and every one of them has its own has its own gotchas. That's kind of a non-answer, but that's the best answer I can give you. Hope you accept that. And then this one I love. So we took this question because it's such a great question, but I don't have an answer for it. So if you had the option to partner with whomever you wanted in the entire crypto world, who would you choose first? First of all, I want to, congrats, tip of the hat on saying whomever. Excellent grammar, sir. I don't know. The truth is, I want to partner with everyone we can that has the same aims as we do, which is to actually bring about real advancement, not be a money grab, not fool people, but actually really do what we say we're going to do, really be decentralized. I am eager to work with anyone who is either bringing out a totally decentralized blockchain network or is very upfront about what is and is not decentralized, and isn't seeking to pretend to be decentralized. I think there's places for those too. I personally prefer the decentralized versions, and I think that's the long-term growth. But I can see that there's places that have certain centralized elements that may not be the end of the world. I want to work with people who are really trying to build a Web3 decentralized future, build useful tools, think about community first, and not about money and financial gain and token price first. Those are the people I'm excited to work with. I hope that there's a large amount of them, and I hope that those people who are out there will try and reach us. And I'm open to that. Just like I talked about, I know that I personally have a bit of a reputation for not being very patient with people that I think are misleading their communities or doing things wrong and not trying to fix them. Everyone makes mistakes sometimes, but it's the acknowledging them and trying to fix them that's important. And there have been chains that I've called out for that and still do, because I think somebody has to say, no, this is bullshit. And I guess I've assigned myself the calling bullshit role on that. But there are also a lot of great projects that I'm eager to work with, and I'm eager for Telos to work with. I mean, and I don't make the decision, right, of what Telos is going to work with. I only can do that for myself. But I see a huge expansion in what blockchain and Web3 is coming to. I think it's a huge space. This is going to be a mesh, a block mesh, just like we have the World Wide Web, and of all kinds of things working together. And every time we advance a new partnership, I'm super excited about that. So that's my sort of cop-out answer, because I'm not going to give you a name. I'm going to give you a kind of a type of person that I want to work with, and that's it. And I would say thank you guys very, very much for following me on this rather long presentation. Really enjoy the chance to talk to people about this. I would love to make this more interactive, but we do what we can. If you have any questions, this is something that we could bring into the community, that you can, share any questions you have there, Telegram, Twitter, anything like that. Reach out to us. I'll be happy to answer further questions. We also do Telos Tuesdays and usually something on Friday as well. And so give us your questions there. We'll keep answering them. Really excited about what our community has put together and our team, and just very happy to share this. I think Q4 is going to be crazy, and we're working on making Telos and blockchain better every day. Thank you very much.